Today I have a story to share with you. It's called The Curious Garden by Peter Brown. The Curious Garden. There once was a city without any gardens or trees or greenery or of any kind. Most people spent their time indoors. As you can imagine, it was a very dreary place. Dreary just means very gray, just like this city, very sad. However, there was one boy who loved being outside. Even on drizzly days while everyone else stayed inside, you could always find Liam happily splashing through the neighborhood. It was on one such morning that Liam made several surprising discoveries. He was wandering around the old railway, as he did from time to time, when he stumbled upon a dark stairwell leading up to the tracks. Now, the railway is what the train travels on. Okay, so he was wandering around the railway. The railway had stopped working ages ago. And since Liam had always wanted to explore the tracks, there was only one thing for the curious boy to do. So he came up to some stairs. So what do you think he wants to do? Liam ran up the stairs, pushed open the door, and stepped out onto the railway. See the train tracks? See how it's been ages since the train's been on there? The first thing he saw was a lonely patch of color. Wildflowers and plants were the last things he expected to find up there. But when he took a closer look, it became clear that the plants were dying. They needed a gardener. Liam may not have been a gardener, but he knew that he could help. So he returned to the railway the very next day and got to work. The flowers nearly drowned, and he had a few pruning problems. But the plants patiently waited while Liam found better ways of gardening. See, his plants are starting to grow a little bit. Water pruning. See his pruning right here? As the weeks rolled by, Liam began to feel like a real gardener, and the plants began to feel like a real garden. Most gardens stay in one place, but this was no ordinary garden. With miles of open railway ahead of it, the garden was growing restless. Okay, so restless means that you feel like you need to do something. It wanted to explore. The tough little weeds and mosses were the first to move. They popped up farther and farther down the tracks and were closely followed by more delicate plants. Okay, you see right here? Over the next few months, Liam and the Curious Garden explored every corner of the railway. It's not so dreary now, right? He's a pretty good gardener, isn't he? What's this called? Smokestack. Wonder what he's thinking about. What else do you notice in this picture? After spending his spring and summer and autumn with the garden, Liam's time on the railway was finally interrupted by winter. Heavy blankets of snow fell on the city that season, and for the first time since he'd become a gardener, Liam could not visit the plants. The snow is so pretty, though. This story must not take place here, right, in Alabama? We don't get this much snow. Rather than waste his winter worrying about the garden, Liam spent it preparing for spring. Oh, look. That's what I like to do. After 3 cold months, the snow finally began to melt, and Liam rolled his new gardening gear over to the railway. Winter had taken a toll on the garden. Look. So what's he going to have to do? But thanks to Liam's planning, his handy new tools, and a little help from the sun, the plants soon awoke from their winter sleep. Is he singing to the plants? Do you notice anything else? Do you think that works? The garden had always wanted to explore the rest of the city, and that spring was finally ready to make its move. Once again, the tough little weeds and mosses set out first. They popped up farther and farther from the railway and were closely followed by more delicate plants. Let's see here. What do you notice about Liam? What's he doing? The garden was especially curious about old forgotten things. A few plants popped up where they didn't belong. Look. Wonder what problems would happen if Liam didn't fix those. Others mysteriously popped up all at once. But the most surprising thing that popped up were the new gardeners. Where do you think all the new gardeners came from? Pause it if you want to and look at the picture and see what else you notice. I'm gonna have to look at these pages individually. All right, look at this one. What do you see? Look at this one too. Let's go back so you can see the whole thing. Lots of interesting things in these pictures. Many years later, the entire city had blossomed. But of all the new gardens, Liam's favorite was where it all began. Now, which person in the picture right now is Liam? Think about it because it says many years later. So is he the little boy? Or is he someone else in the picture? The end.